And thinking about how one of the mythic things, one of the Celtic mythic things is, and actually maybe not just Celtic, Greek too, I think, and is at this time that there's a certain wandering. There's not a the underworld and our world are not completely so separated. And one other way to put that might be the unconscious, the treasures of the unconscious, the treasures we don't know about in our lives are available to us, or more easily available to us than usual. They're always available, and somehow to be open to that is a tremendous thing. And you can feel the golden light that appears in your heart when you do that, when you soften a bit. Or I can anyway, stop being right and whatever other vices I might have. Nothing wrong with my vices, but they interrupt joy and connection and love. So I guess I'm going to read a couple. Maybe I'll tell a story or two. There's another kind. There are many kinds of dreams, and some dreams are really for the sake of others. You may have heard the story of Robbie Bosnack, the Jungian analyst, who lives in Australia half the year, and he went out to talk to an indigenous healer way out in the Never Never, out past Alice Springs, and they were talking about, and Robbie said, well, maybe I should tell you how I heal, how I work with dreams. He was interested in dream work and so on. And so this young man he was working with, and some young people, hadn't really made his way into life and hadn't really connected. He wanted to make connections with women but hadn't, and things like that. And hadn't really settled down or hadn't been able to really open himself to other people. And he had a dream, and I can't remember what the dream was, but anyway, Robbie interpreted it and said how the dream helped the young man make more connections with life and perhaps, begin connecting with a woman as he had always wanted to, things like that. And, the indigenous healer thought, well, family's always good, good, and so then Robbie said, well, perhaps you should tell me how you work with dreams. And he said, well, I go to sleep and I become an eagle, and I take the sick person on my back between my wings, and I hold them and I fly up to the Milky Way, and there the ancestors is a place like a hand, and all the ancestors, the old ancestral healers are there, and I take the sick person up to them, and they get healed, and then I bring the person back. But if you're trying this yourself, it's very important not to drop the person on the way back. Helpful hints, it's like because sometimes young medicine people will they'll make that mistake. So it's very important not to drop them, because then they might get sick again. And then he said, so that's what I do with dreams and healing. And so you can tell, this is a different model. and it's not actually better or worse. It's just different, and you can tell that, if we live in these dream worlds, all sorts of things can happen, that healing can happen and so on. And there's a reality, I guess I'm saying there's a reality to the world beyond all our plans. And I think you probably know that, or you wouldn't be meditating, or you at least assume that. But to be open to it and not to be having to push all our plans ahead of us all the time is really important. And there's a whole category of dreams in which I said that I had a dream of Yasani Roshi wanted to talk to me, which was interesting to me because I thought I'd never really wanted to talk to him. And when I looked at it lately, I thought I probably didn't think he'd want to talk to me. so, so my dream thinking he did indicate a sort of change in my attitude towards the sort of slightly gnarly parts of the tradition. I was more open to the humanity of them, and and then the that's a dog has no Buddha nature. That's Yamada Koen's Roshi's calligraphy, and that was the cover of his miscellaneous koans that he handed us. We wrote that on endlessly poor. That's a bad Xerox bad copy of a bad copy of a bad copy. And but then in another dream, he came to me and said he was going to teach me calligraphy, and I need to come with him to his place, learn calligraphy. And I thought, that's really great. And so we're changing our relationship to the tradition in a way, because if we live far from the roots of the tradition in China and Japan. And in fact, you can't even really go back to those roots now because China's changed and even Japan has changed in such a way that that's not possible. So the great Tang Dynasty masters are also in California, and so the dreams help us with that, I think. Yamada Roshi's teaching me calligraphy, and I think that's another dream that was helpful to me at the time. I was Thich Nhat Hanh visited Honolulu. I don't know what I was doing around the temple. Maybe I was running. I don't think I was. But anyway, I was the head of practice, and I'd be at the temple a lot and things. And in Honolulu, and Thich Nhat Hanh and Robert Aiken just didn't like each other, and you could see why on both counts. And Thich Nhat Hanh was mad about. I think he just didn't like. I don't know what it was. He didn't like. I don't know. Anyway, it was some sort of competition thing between them. And Thich Nhat Hanh was like, angry a lot. And Robert Aiken was angry too, but he was pretending he wasn't. and anyway, and then I had this dream, and I didn't feel that close to either of them really, then I had this dream, and I thought, well, let them fight it out. But I had this interesting dream where there's this great, beautiful, fairly modern Asian temple and huge steps, and they're walking up ahead of. They're both walking up kind of, not quite together, but they're both walking up the same steps into the temple. And I'm following, like a generation down sort of thing. I'm following them up into the temple. And I thought, sometimes there's an impersonality about dreams. And that's why that thing I said, don't take it too personally about your quarrels with your family or whatever. There's a bigger, that thing about, in Chan, there's a bigger point of view. In Zen, there's a bigger point of view as possible. That some things get resolved by that bigger point of view. And I didn't really have to work it out with my father, talk it through with him. It wasn't his culture, and I'm not that patient with that sort of thing anyway. And so, but I did have to do something about the weather, like that. So I didn't have. So it's a big objective thing, I don't have to well, when you said this, I felt that, which is like always a doomed project in my observation, and it's more like in the territory of, let's have tea, So that the thing with Aitken and Thich Nhat Hanh were both good and real teachers who dedicated their lives to teaching, and I was a student of one of them, and that's good enough. Our personal opinions about each other didn't matter, and that was a nice thing to know. Like the Tao doesn't really care what you're feeling about this. You're stuck. You're walking up into that temple behind the rest of them. That was a sort of a nice thing to know. That even I couldn't really sabotage that.